Well, good evening again. Welcome to our final session of the evening. We're lucky this evening to have a number of phenomenal guests with us to talk about college and career ready skills for your career. And so we're going to ask a number of questions of our panel, and they'll provide their insights, both from a career and personal experience perspective. I guess we'll start with some introductions. So I'll ask our panelists to just introduce themselves and describe their role in their organization.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Szymanski. I'm an HR partner with Ascension, Wisconsin, formerly Wheaton Franciscan Healthcare, and we've gone through a lot of change in the past 2 years. I've been with the organization for 18 years, and I'm excited to be here tonight.
Tom Schultz, I'm from Crohn's. We're a manufacturer here in Franklin, right by Franklin Industrial Park. I'm the head of manufacturing there. I've been there for about 27 years.
I am Kathy Armbruster. I work for Northwestern Mutual, and I'm a Franklin High School alum, so I'm very glad to be here tonight. No, Human Resources, sorry.
I am Troy Bartasevich. I'm Senior Vice President at Park Bank, which is a commercial bank in Milwaukee. I head up the retail area and wealth management, and I've been in the banking industry for 30 years.
Welcome to all four of you. Thank you for being here this evening. Really our theme of the night was around experience, right, and identifying those experiences that are right for you. And so the first question is related to that. What type of experiences would you encourage high school students to participate in to prepare for the world of work?
I would say the main experiences that students should seek out would be getting involved in extracurricular activities. In addition to school, getting those experiences outside of school where they have the opportunity to work with a coach or a leader, be part of a team, and contribute in different ways. So it can be sports, it could be other opportunities like forensics, debate, a number of different areas, even the plays, the musicals, things like that. I would also say volunteering, whether it's through opportunities through school or through different church groups and things like that. Wherever there's a volunteer opportunity, you can gain so much experience through that as well.
My feedback would be that you should probably try to do as much outside of your comfort zone as possible. And there's a lot of opportunities that I don't think that everybody gets a chance to see. I know I didn't get a chance to see them when I was in high school. We have a lot of tours at our factory, and there's a lot of people that are dismayed that this exists right within their neighborhood. We have a lot of opportunities for internships at every job level, whether it be an accountant or a machinist or a technician, a repair technician. There's lots of opportunities there, lots of internship opportunities there. These are paid positions, so it's kind of good to get a job other than the retail fast food industry and kind of get your feet wet in industry.
I agree with Cindy's comments on the activities beyond school. So I always think of every experience you have, you can take from that and build on it, whether it's experiences you have now that will get you ready for college, or experiences now in college that will get you ready for a career. If you elect not to go on to college and you have other plans, I always think of things like collaboration skills, conflict management. Those are things that you can learn right now. Thinking differently, right? So you may not think about a career in manufacturing, but maybe if you have an internship, even if you don't go into manufacturing, you'll pick up on skills, analytical thinking, working with other people, problem solving. Those are things that you can learn in the classroom, but you can learn outside of the classroom and on the job too. So I'd encourage you to think about what is it that you can get out of each of those experiences aside from just the experience itself.
I agree with those comments. I also sit on the Wisconsin Bankers Association Committee for Scholarships. I'd say all the things you're hearing here not only help you with your job and your career search, but when you're looking for scholarships, what you can put on your scholarship application is extremely important to what you are doing in school and what you're doing outside of school. And not just the day-to-day stuff, just all the extras, leadership positions, whether that's student council, whether that's within your sports teams or any other extracurricular activities, and then also any volunteerism and internships that you're doing.
The next question has to do with one of those key employability skills, collaboration. How important is it for employees in your organization to collaborate effectively? And in your opinion, what does effective collaboration look like?
I can start. Effective collaboration. Wow, that's a pretty big topic, right? It's probably the most important aspect, I think, in our operation is the ability to collaborate, not just with your coworker, but with the entire value stream. Everything's a process, and so it's really important that you're able to reach out to somebody way upstream or way downstream out of the process and kind of do some problem solving for the greater good of the bigger process. So the ability to deal with all different personality types and understand that space between the words is for listening, and that you have to be able to be a really good listener to be a very good collaborator, because if you're not listening to the message from someone else, you're unable to really receive their message and collaborate effectively.
I would say I agree with that. And when you look at collaboration, sometimes it's just to find out other ideas from others within the group. You can't always come with the best idea to all things you're trying to do. I look at Adaptability today. I brought in 3 other departments. I'm so certain that all 3 it pertain to them. But I found a lot of good ideas with doing that, and it ended up being a good success that way. So, working with it, and in school right now, when you have projects, sometimes you do as a group. And, sometimes those work real well because, if you have a group of 4, maybe 2 work real strong and maybe 2 aren't working as strong, and sometimes that happens. That happens in life as well. And so it happens in school, learn from it. It happens in work, learn from it.
I think within healthcare, clearly collaboration is so important across multidisciplinary teams, because you have doctors, nurses, lab techs, materials folks, radiology, whatever it might be, all working to care for the patient. Some may not touch the patient, but certainly their role in the organization requires them to collaborate with others who are touching the patient, caring for the patient. So communication and collaboration is definitely imperative in healthcare environment. And when there are what we call sentinel events, something happens and something went wrong, we do a root cause analysis. We find out what happened, where was the breakdown, and probably more than 90% of the time it had to do with communication. So I think those communication skills are key to that effective collaboration.
Thank you. To what extent do you encourage your employees to take risks? And if you do, what does that look like in your organization?
Well, I can tell you that there's sometimes in a corporate environment, what you hear and what really happens might be 2 different things. And I think right now there are a lot of organizations that are saying, we want to reward individuals for taking risks. We want you to fail fast and recover, right? And I think the intent is always there. People want people to be able to do those things, and yet there's concern about not getting things right, not being correct. And so I would tell you, take those risks, but take a good calculated risk when you're doing that. You can do the same thing right now in high school and when you're in college. Figure out, how much risk are you comfortable with, and then what are your options if things aren't going to go the way that you thought they were. But don't be afraid to take that risk, but make it a smart risk. And then I think you'll have respect for that. You can't continue to make failed risks and poor decisions, but if it was a reasonable decision, given the information that you had, organizations want people that are willing to try something different. You can hire a lot of people that are willing to just follow a process and never question it, or never come up with another idea, or never try something new. So that would be my thought. Think about how big of a risk, how difficult of a risk is it, what's your next plan, and then go for it.
I encourage you to drive fast and take chances in my place. I want people to take risks. It means that they're engaged and they're doing something. The engagement to me is the result of something. It's the result of job fulfillment, and a job is way more fulfilling if it's your idea, your opportunity that you champion on, and you can kind of build off of that. So I encourage risk taking, as long as it's safe.
Right. the company also has to have the environment that they back that up, right? Somebody makes a good risk, decent risk, and then you back it up that they're not feeling the pain of making maybe not the ultimate right decision. So that's where I think, like, look at that culture is, do we say take risk, and then what happens if something fails?
Yeah, it's the difference between culture and climate. You may have this culture that says take risks, and the climate says if you take a risk, you're out the door, right? So you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, and usually you can find that out by vetting, by talking to others within an organization to figure out how much risk can you take. In the banking industry, we're highly regulated, like other industries, and healthcare is no different. So there is only so much risk you can take on certain types of decisions. But, you look at it more as a common sense approach. Does it really make sense? Can you do that? If you're not looking at the rules and regulation as far as banking is concerned, someone made a mistake, a customer made a mistake on something, refund the money. You can refund a service charge or something as simple as that. Take that chance for someone who's a good long-term customer. That's fine. But other things, you got to be careful with that because some organizations will take that as, you made that much of a risk, I'm sorry, there's not a place here for you. Or other times it's going to be appreciated and you learn from it.
So along those lines, if we encourage or support risk-taking, inevitably there's bound to be failure. And so how do you approach failure in your organization?
Well, as Troy said, there's, healthcare is highly regulated, and so risk, has to be kind of stepped slowly and softly. We do have groups within the workplace that look at things like, what's the best practice based on evidence, and what's the best way to do this procedure, to carry out this treatment. So there's practice councils that work together, and they may determine, okay, we're going to try something new, we're going to try something different, and what's the evidence and what's happened in the past. And then if something does happen, where there's an event that happens and something didn't go well, we have and we promote what's known as a just culture, and we really do a deep dive and look at what happened, how was the decision made, who was responsible, what were their roles, what was within their role to do. And it's not so much penalizing the person as it is learning from that experience and making sure that we put our best foot forward in the next experience. So really fostering that just culture within our organization.
So anytime you make a decision, there's going to be some sort of failure that happens over your career. I've failed many times in my career because I made a certain decision that didn't work out exactly how I thought it was going to work out. That happens. You just need to learn from it. Take that step back and just really look at what went into that decision, who was involved, how'd you go about that practice, and make the call. But just don't be fearful of the failure piece. Make a decision, make a choice, and if you fail, you fail. Learn from it and get up and go again.
Well, I'm not in healthcare, thank God, because if someone's not failing by me, I don't think they're trying hard enough. I promote a little bit of failure. There's this old story about Thomas Edison, and when he was making a light bulb, he failed 1,000 times, and somebody said, well, that must have been terrible to fail 1,000 times. He goes, no, this took 1,000 steps to make a light bulb. And so as long as we're failing and then not failing at the same thing over and over again, right? That we fail, we learn, and we move on. It's kind of that natural state of progression. But I'm not in healthcare, and I'm not in charge of money.
So we talked a little bit about the types of skills that you want to see employees have, right, or the experiences in high school that might lead students to be successful employees. What's the number one barrier preventing employees in your organization from being successful?
When I look at that question, and when you say it's tough because it's really not just our company, it's out there overall, is the persistence and determination. I look at that as one of the same. How hard do you keep working at something, or when you do fail, you give up? And that's the biggest thing is, some of my team make sales calls, so they'll call and talk to somebody, and it's a process. Sometimes it's a year-long process from the start of the sales process to the end where you finally get a decision. And that decision may be a no after 1 year of work. And that can be challenging. And for those that aren't persistent, don't have determination and the consistency, they're going to fail 3 months in because they're not going to stick out with it. to make that sale, because sometimes sale happens fairly quickly and sometimes it doesn't. But you have to be consistent in your approach, persistent with the person, and I think persistent and pushy. Pushy is not good, but just follow up. Communication is very critical from the sales process.
So I've had a couple of different organizations I've supported. One, I worked at a university setting in admissions right out of school, right out of college. I've worked in 2 different manufacturing environments and now in the financial insurance industry. And I think out of all of those, something I would say in common is, are people good thinkers? So you probably hear terms of lean and thinking about how you can do something, a process, better, faster, lower cost. Are you a good thinker that way? Do you always look for a way to improve something? Are you a good thinker that you can see things that other people don't? And can you articulate those ideas, right? That might fall under more communication than thinking skills. But, and I think, are you able to, in addition to seeing something that other people don't, are you able to take a process and really think about what might be a next step? How do you continuously improve something? So those are some of the things that I think about across industries. It'll serve you well in high school, it'll serve you well in college, is to be just a good thinker and taking a step back sometimes and looking at something a little differently.
I think one of the barriers sometimes can be our own time limits that we put on our goals and our, what we'd like to do. Within healthcare and working within HR and recruiting, sometimes people will take a job and after 6 months or a year, they think they failed because, gosh, I haven't been promoted to that next level, or I didn't get that next promotion that I wanted. But I think sometimes you need to, take a look and step back and assess what that means. And I know when I look at the current generation, the millennials, it's boom, boom, boom. They want to move fast, fast, fast. And gosh, after 2 years, 3 years, I should be in the midpoint of my pay range. I should be moving into the next level. And it doesn't always happen that way. It depends on the career path you're taking. It depends on the type of experience you're gaining coming out of college or even coming out of high school during your college experience. Within healthcare, for example, gaining that experience as a CNA, even starting out in environmental services, food service, being in the environment where you're going to learn and grow, and then moving and kind of following that career advancement. So I think sometimes we put those constraints, thinking I have to get this done by this time, or I'm not going to do it at all, kind of inhibits our success.
Yeah, I agree with all those points. Critical thinking is a really super important point, but another twist to it is that you have to be given the opportunity to succeed, and you have to give yourself, as an employee, that opportunity to succeed. So in our organization, it starts at the bottom with individual trustworthiness. So it means that a person is competent, they have competence in their field, they're able to do the task at hand, and they're of good character. So if you tell them to do this task, they're going to do it. If they're lacking either one of those, they don't have this individual trustworthiness. And so you won't be able to build in the organization until you have this initial foundation. And once you have that foundation, you can develop this trust relationship with people, right? So you have this highly effective collaboration between people because people are both trustworthy and competent on both sides of the conversation. And once you have that trust relationship, those groups can be empowered. And once they're empowered, they don't require these outside influences to help them progress. So they create their own opportunity to be successful by having individual trustworthiness and trust relationships with other people.
One of those terms, kind of buzz terms that we hear about in education and career fields that we feel is often overused is the term leader. Right? Someone is a leader in an organization, or everyone should strive to be a leader. What does it mean to be a leader in your organization?
I say a leader in an organization is just not by title. We look at it as, people automatically think, well, it's the CEO, it's the executive group of the organization. And sure, there's leadership qualities that are there, but it's everyone in your own job. How can you be a leader in what you're doing? I look at some of the employees that we have, and they're not in management roles. But just because you're not in a management role doesn't mean you can't be a leader with what you do and how you act and how you conduct your business. And that's extremely important because that hopefully will then give you the opportunity to advance as you move forward. Act like you're already in the position when you're really working hard.
I look at leadership in our organization as someone who does a lot of coaching and a lot of mentoring, no matter what role they're in. This is a great point you're making here about it can be in any role in the organization that you can coach and mentor the person alongside you or a coworker, and that in itself is a leadership characteristic. Gives you that opportunity to move forward.
Definitely. I think, like it's been said, it's not just based on title, but that experience. And they're really, when we look at leaders within our organization, they're the stars, they're the rocks in the department, they're the people we go to, we know we can depend on. They're credible, they're dependable, they're available, they're willing to take the risk, they're willing to kind of, put their best foot forward and try something new. I think that's important. And so I say, within our organization, we have many informal leaders throughout all the different areas.
The only thing I'd add to that is when we talk about leadership roles, right? Not everybody can be a captain on a sports team or the lead in a play or a manager or a VP or anything, but everybody can find an opportunity to lead something. So if you're in a job interview and somebody asks you about leadership, it doesn't have to be a formal leadership role. You can talk about a couple of experiences that you had that you were willing to step out in front and people followed you because you had good ideas and you could put them into practice, and hopefully you brought other people along with you instead of just directing it. So whether it's a job interview or a scholarship interview, if you're doing something like that, you can think about some leadership experiences without necessarily a formal role. So don't be afraid to tout that too.
Thanks. In terms of society, we often hear about the difficulty for new grads to find jobs, be it high school graduate, two-year school graduate, or four-year school graduate. How important is previous experience when hiring a new employee in your organization?
From the HR person, I'm gonna say it's very important for individuals to gain experience, and we've talked about kind of that can be done in so many ways. It can be done through work experience, it can be done through volunteer experience, it can be done through extracurricular activities that you've been involved in. It can be very competitive in many fields and many industries to break in and to get one of those highly sought after jobs. And if you've gone through high school and college and focused on your studies and kind of had tunnel vision and didn't participate, didn't reach out, didn't have opportunities, it will shine through in the interview process and the point when you're applying for positions. I think the more experience you can gain, because in an interview and when you're trying to sell yourself, you really want to tell your story. And you want to have good experiences to pull from. And they don't have to be formal leadership roles and things like that, but they have to be good experiences that you can speak to and what your role was and what you learned from that experience.
I'll speak out here a little bit. We're in the skilled trade business and manufacturing, and there is certainly no available skilled tradespeople. There's just not that pool to pick from. So in our industry, from that aspect, from the skilled trades aspect, we're going to hire people without experience. We've been doing it for about 4 years now. I mean, very, very entry-level people. But in order to get that entry-level position, to get that first bout of experience, you have to be of good character. We won't hire for character. In the interview process, I kind of pick out whether the person has the ability to thrive in our organization. Are they going to be happy? Are they going to be engaged? If they don't seem like they're going to be happy, they're going to be engaged, and not going to thrive in our organization, they're out. But I will hire inexperienced people as long as they have good character and they have this appearance that they're going to thrive in our organization.
For our organization, we actually do look for experience before you come work for us in most of the positions. We have entry-level positions, which are your tellers and CSRs. So when you go into the bank, people you see across the counter that process your transactions, those are what we consider more of our entry-level positions. And those, we'll certainly hire folks that are in college, we'll certainly hire folks that are in high school. But unfortunately for an organization like ours, we have a small number of those opportunities. But banks as a whole in this area, there's a lot of opportunity in banking today. Where you're tight with the market too, banking is very tight right now in the Milwaukee area. So if you're looking for a career, you like financial services, it could be an option, but start start, what you said before, you don't have to start up here on a top position here. Start at the lower level, the entry position, learn the business. When you do that, you're going to see the opportunities that are going to open up for you.
Great. We have one final formal question, then we'll open it up to the audience for about 5 minutes if there are additional questions that anyone would like to ask our panel. This one is more of a personal question. Did your career ever take an unexpected turn? And if so, what was it?
I can jump on that one. I'm in banking. My degree's in police science. And that's not obviously what most people would think, but that's what my degree's in. So I wanted to do it one point.
My undergrad is business administration, and I said, oh, I'd love to work in human resources. I graduated from school. I didn't work in human resources. I started off in admissions at a college, and then I went into student activities because I really enjoyed seeing that in the organization. And so my career took some twists and turns, and but you can always kind of move along. Some people are very purposeful in the direction that they want to go and work their way up in an organization. For me, it was trying different types of organizations and moving into something that I liked, even maybe just a little bit more each time. And I always thought if I didn't like it, I had a pretty good track record with staying with organizations, so I wasn't too nervous if I went somewhere and it didn't work out and I would decide to move on to a different company. I'd be okay with that. You can't do that every year, but certainly you can always make a change if you need to.
My thoughts here are life is not how you plan it. It's not going to happen that way. No matter how well you lay it out, it's just not going to happen. My career pathway was all over the map. My first degree was in combustion engine technology, and I went on to marketing, and now I'm in manufacturing. Right, so it goes all over the map. I have some advice I give to the young people that I talk to at the high schools here is that you shouldn't necessarily follow your passion. You should take it with you. Because everywhere you go, things are going to be a little bit different, and there's going to be different opportunities. And as long as you're passionate all the time, you will be successful.
And I would just say, in my experience, being with Wheaton and Ascension for 18 years, the past 2 years have been a little challenging in that, for many of you have seen in the news, Ascension, actually Wheaton became part of Ascension along with Columbia St. Mary's and Ministry in the North, Appleton and Parts North. So it was, I was happy in my career, I was good in my job, and all of a sudden another company came in and said, oh, you're going to be part of us now. And so things changed, unexpectedly, and we had to go through a restructure within our own department, within a number of departments, and become one group as Wisconsin. So it's been a very challenging couple of years, and kind of something that happens in many industries where there's mergers and acquisitions and changes that happen. So.
Thank you all so much for sharing those experiences. Are there any questions from anyone in our audience for our panel?
Someone will take a risk and ask a question.
What is one thing you regretted not doing in high school?
I'm sorry, what was one thing you'd rather?
Regretted not doing in high school. Yeah.
Seems like yesterday. Okay, you know what I regret? I regret not being fully engaged in high school. Nick said something here in his opening remarks about you should take a class that you're not necessarily interested in, just to try something different, right? You never know what that would be. And I think I regret not taking some of those classes. I was really bound and determined that I was headed in a certain direction, and I buckled into that direction. I think I missed some opportunities. I regret that.
I would say maybe not a career note, but certainly a coworker or a good employee kind of a note is, I think I probably didn't think as diversely when I was in high school about being inclusive to other people. and not just on race, gender, whatever, but just people that had different likes or interests than I did. I think I was kind, but I don't know that I was really broad in inviting people in, and that's something I think I wish I would have thought about that more in high school.
I think really looking at the opportunities that are out there and available. I graduated Franklin as well, and I think back to those days, and I felt like I could have taken more initiative to learn about the different careers that are available, to explore, to do job shadowing and internships and whatever it might be. I kind of feel like I found my way somehow, but I feel like I could have had more opportunity and experience. When I started working in the healthcare industry, I was like, wow, what do those people do? And they make how much? And what kind of a rewarding career is that? And they're getting to see the patients, and how much schooling do they need? I think just starting to ask some questions regarding whatever industry or whatever roles you think you might be interested in. You may change your mind, you may gain an experience and be able to learn from it, but know that that's not an area that you want to go into. So I think just exploring all those opportunities.
I don't know if I had really any regrets. I really enjoyed high school. I had a good time, and I was active. I participated in a lot of things, and really enjoyed it. Did I make all the right decisions? No. But you learn from it, and you just move on. So that's how I look at it. There's a lot of those opportunities you can sit there and look back. I could regret what I did yesterday or the day before or any of those things, but just learn from it.
Thank you. Other questions?
That was a great question, by the way.
All right. Well, let's thank our panel for their insights.